Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mediums in Action with me, Martin Luke Wilson, and Ian Doherty.
Hello, Martin. Hope you're keeping well and safe.
Yeah, all good. Kind of looking forward to Halloween, although I don't think we'll be going anywhere this year.
No, it's just a shame, more so for the kids, isn't it? They like the trick or treat, but I'm sure something can be done if you're wearing a mask as well.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is that venturing to other people's houses and that sort of thing. It's a shame, really. But usually in Pickering, where I live in North Yorkshire, they're very, they really go for it for Halloween. So it's always been a great joy walking around and you see all these pumpkins and it's really good. So I'm going to really miss it. If I wasn't going to miss it because my children are getting older now, I'm going to miss it because of COVID. But I don't know. But well, with it coming to Halloween, and obviously people start to think about, the other world and weird things. And I think one thing we'd like to talk about is I'm saying suspicions instead of superstitions for some reason. So, yeah, we'd like to talk about superstitions and how it's affected your lives in some way. I mean, did you have family members who were superstitious here?
Yeah. My nana and my mum only in the way of chucking salt over their shoulder. I think that's to chase the devil away or something, isn't it? Looking at it at that point of view, and they don't walk under the ladder and all that. So they went over superstitious. They were the adage of don't break in a mirror, and that sort of thing, but really not over the top, just in those, and always was knock on wood. It was tap or knock on wood. That was the most prevalent one, I think. The salt.
So like touch wood and throw the salt over the left hand shoulder because the devil sits there.
Yeah, that's it.
So you used to live in, was it Wrexham? Was it?
Well, it's just it was a small village about 3 miles north, I think. But in that area, yes. But the Halloween wasn't pushed back. Obviously, I'm showing my age here. It wasn't as prevalent when I was a kid as it is now. So there wasn't really that Halloween. It was more the ghost element, the spooky element, rather than anything else, really.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it was the same when I was younger. I mean, Halloween was just getting some turnips and putting a candle in and walking around, and most people wouldn't come to the door. But, I just wondered if there was any sort of Welsh-related superstitions that you had. But it sounds like they were fairly similar to what I experienced. Touch wood, throw salt over your shoulder. But I think my mum was sort of superstitious. I know we broke a mirror once. I broke a mirror with a football. And I remember her always saying, "Oh my God, that's it now. We've got 7 years bad luck." And I'm thinking, what? Why have we got 7?
It's not that Badam Blavatsky again, is it? With 7.
It's interesting. 7 years bad luck and the mirror. It must be something to do with kind of magical numbers and the old traditions of 777 being related to the devil. I think every number is related to based on superstition. But the biggest person in my life who was like crazy superstitious was my grandma. And she was a Sheffield housewife that originally came from Rotherham, settled down in Sheffield. And we'd go to my grandma, and there would be the left-hand shoulder thing. There would be all that. If there was a thunderstorm, she would open all the doors and turn around the mirrors. And the reason is and I said, well, why are we doing this? So we had to have all doors open, even though the rain could have been coming down and coming into the house. She had to have the doors open. She said, because the thunderbolt down the chimney, and it will need to get out. So we need to open the doors. Okay. And that was every single time. The mirrors apparently attracted the thunderbolts. So if you had a mirror, it would go to the mirror and it would blow up the mirror. And I said, did you ever experience this? She said, no, but I know people who did. So that was one superstition, which was like, well, that was really, really weird. Another superstition was, I always remember she had a council house, and the council turned up and said, oh, we're painting your doors. What colour do you want? And they said, oh, we've done everybody else's window, everybody else's door green. And she went, green? I'm not having green. I will not wear green. I will not have green on my house. It's utter bad luck. And she said, yeah, you'll have to paint it blue, because they only had green, blue, and red, and she wouldn't have red either. But green was an evil colour. She wouldn't wear green, and there was no green in the house either. And it's interesting, I did research why green was an evil colour, and it's because it's related to fairies, believe it or not.
Oh, I see, yeah.
The woodland, trees, that sort of thing. It must be an old sort of, very old sort of tradition in that green was classed as being related to the fairies, and then somehow would bring bad luck to you and your family if you had it in the house.
Well, I've never heard of that. I can understand the link to the grass, the woods, the forest, and all of that. But I've never heard of that one. That's strange, that, isn't it?
It's really weird. And my family, my mum is originally from Buckinghamshire and moved up to Sheffield. And it's interesting because sometimes I used to go down and live in Buckinghamshire for a while and then come back up. And one thing that was interesting is I'd realised that there was very different traditions in Sheffield as well. I think Sheffield is a very superstitious city, because one thing that Sheffielders absolutely hate in their house, birds are classed as really bad luck. That if you have a picture of birds, if you have, kind of a plate with birds on them and that sort of thing, it's a really bad luck thing to have. I don't know if that was a tradition in your house.
No, never heard of that at all. I can recall growing up. We used to have those plates, they had a face, and that whenever you looked at it, it looked as if the face was following you. So we used to have the Mary Mother of God plaques up. We used to have little statuettes of Jesus and all sorts around everywhere.
Oh, wow.
brought up in a Catholic family. So we had all of this. We had crucifixes downstairs and upstairs,
And that is why you was never bit by a vampire. Your mum was protecting you from the Welsh vampires. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But now birds was a real thing as well. Is that you couldn't have birds? And again, because I'm interested in folklore and folk tales, I wanted to know why birds, and I think it comes from two things. And I think the reason why it's more prevalent in Sheffield and that sort of area, Sheffield up to Barnsley, is I think, number one, the old tradition is that birds would take your soul away. Do you know when you was on your deathbed?
Yeah.
His birds would be seen outside your window, and they were coming to take your soul away, which actually is a really nice thing, I think. It's a beautiful thing that birds would come to spirit you away, literally.
Yeah.
So I think that's where one tradition is, and I think I've mentioned it before, is what they would do is if somebody was on the deathbed or very, very ill, they would close all the windows because they didn't want your soul to escape.
Yeah, no, that is one thing we used to have. When any of the neighbours passed, then about 4 houses either side of the neighbour's house had the windows drawn, all of the curtains drawn. That's one tradition, and the other thing I think why birds are bad luck is because of canaries and birds that were taken into the mines. That's it.
So I think by having that association with birds and having a bird in your house was some sort of representation of the birds that were taken down the mines, which obviously died, very easily from gas and the vapors down there. So it was really strange because there was a lot of things that when I was younger, there was all these very, very weird superstitions that my grandma would have, and it was interesting. She always hated Christmas as well. and she had various superstitions about Christmas, and we never understood her. She was quite a difficult woman, really, and never understood why she had all these superstitions, why she had all this sort of stuff. And it was only after my father died, I was talking to sort of a distant cousin. I think he was, I don't know how he works out, great cousin or something like that. He was the son of my grandma's sister. So
yeah,
I don't know how that works out. Anyway, he was saying that, oh yeah, Kath had her name was Kath. She had a very hard life, and I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, don't you know, her dad died at Christmas, and she ended up living with another family at the other side of Sheffield, where she came from Rotherham, and everything changed that Christmas, and she went to live with this this family who was like friends of a friend. So she was taken to some stranger's house and lived there. And apparently they were very superstitious. They were Catholic as well. So I think the reason why she hated Christmas and the reason why she had those traditions was purely from her childhood. Purely from that sort of that was ingrained at an early age, that her father died at Christmas, and then having that big upheaval, it obviously left a mark on her, and that's why she related so much to superstitions. Do you believe in superstitions?
I tend to look at them in a sort of the old wives' tale sort of thing. I try to reason them out. For instance, walking under a ladder brings bad luck. Then I think, well, I check up if there's a work person on the top. Am I going to have paint spilled on me or whatever? If there's somebody working on the top, I walk around. If there isn't, I walk under it. I don't bother. I just make sure nothing's going to drop on me. And the adage, you don't open an umbrella in a closed room. Well, the brollies of old, they were huge. You know what I mean? I'm quite surprised people didn't wear weights in case they got picked up in the wind. So it is, isn't it? It's sort of it makes sense. Don't put on new shoes, or don't put shoes on the table. If you've been out and walking on the grass, you might bring anything back, and the table's for eating. You put your plates of food on. So
do you know where that superstition came from? Because
no, mate, I haven't a clue on that one.
Yeah, King Charles I, the guy who was he was executed, wasn't he? Do you know when before he was executed, they brought him he wanted new shoes, and they put the new shoes on the table. So that's where that superstition comes from.
Oh, I didn't. That's interesting.
Yeah, don't put new shoes on the table, because you might be executed.
Oh no, I bloody never. I always thought it was because they might have been dirtied on there, but obviously a new shoe's not. But no, it's interesting.
Yeah. Again, it's intriguing how certainly. I mean, in the United Kingdom, we've got all these weird and wonderful traditions, and sometimes they are related to history, like that. It's like the old Ring of Roses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People think it's related to what do you call it? Isn't it the plague and everything like that? Ring of Roses, pocket full of posies, a tissue all fall down. And it's interesting that I think the British are typically very superstitious. We're very haunted. I mean, we just we've spread that around the world, especially with the United States. They absolutely love hauntings as well. And Australia, we're very much that kind of country. But I don't think I do any particular. I don't think I have any particular superstitions myself.
Yeah, I sometimes do the touch wood saying, but very, very rarely. It's just something that just I think, oh yeah, touch wood, and then I make a joke saying, oh, just touch your head, because that's made of wood as well.
Yeah. I don't think I do any. I'm just trying to think now if I do. The only thing I can't do. Well, I don't know if this is where it might not be superstitious, but I think it just might be me having OCD or something. I can't drink out of black cups.
All right, interesting.
Honestly, I can't do it. Or like dark coloured glasses, like blue glasses or something. I was for my wedding. I was bought some dark blue glasses. I couldn't drink out of them. And I think it must be a kid's thing. When I was a kid, somebody must have given me a black black cup, and I don't know what was in it, but it scared me for life.
You know what, talking about, particularly with reference to your gran and what you just said, I can recall being in my nana's house, and we used to have tea put in a little plastic beaker, one of those little, used to get them, the tall, thin beaker plastic things, red and orange or blue, and my mum used to say, remember, leave a bit of tea at the bottom, and I thought, I didn't realise why, but you do what your mum says. And then I accidentally, being clumsy, I knocked one over, and all these tea leaves came out, and I thought they were ants. They all just come. But I haven't drunk tea since I was 7. I've not touched tea.
Wow.
I'm a coffee person. Even the smell of tea puts me off. But it's coming back from that when I knocked a thing over and saw all these what I thought were ants. They were tea leaves, And I thought, I've been drinking that when there's those things in the bottom. But it put me off. Being the only time I drunk tea since, I was in the forces, middle of Germany. Peed wet through on a bloody bang. I've shot you exercise. Been in the middle of the Harz Forest for the best part of a week. You've peed wet through. You're freezing. All they've got on store is tea. So I drunk it. It warmed me. It warmed me up. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch it in a month of Sundays.
No. How bizarre! It just shows you, doesn't it, how things affect you. It's interesting because my father-in-law, he obviously he comes from a very superstitious family as well, and he always leaves a bit of his food on the plate.
Yeah.
At the end, he will not clear his plate, and the reason is he said he's leaving it for spirits or for fairies. It's like, what? And he don't believe in any of that. And he said, oh no, you've always got to leave a little bit at the end, because it's like you can never have an empty wallet. You've always got to have a penny in there, because if you take all the money out of the wallet, it will never fill up again.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So there's little things like that. But just to finish off, I think my favourite superstition or belief, folktale belief, is in Sheffield and most of Yorkshire, actually, when we have Yorkshire puddings, we have them first before the main meal. We don't have them with the main meal. They're almost like a starter. I don't know if you know that.
No.
So Sunday lunch, you have your Yorkshire puddings first with gravy, and then you'll have your main meal, your mashed potatoes, your chicken, and everything else. You'll have that second. And that's been for years. We're talking hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And I remember reading in Victorian times that people were saying they always eat their Yorkshire puddings first. What is this? What is this weirdness? Yeah. Why don't they have it with the main meal? And it's because we were Viking raided. So what would happen is, if we were having one big meal and we were raided at the beginning, you wouldn't get to eat the most nourishing thing. And Yorkshire puddings are full of eggs, full of milk, and full of fat. They're actually a good piece of,
definitely
a good piece of diet to have. And so that's why Yorkshire people have Yorkshire puddings at first and by themselves before the main meal. Allegedly. When
you look at it, it's weird. I'm just thinking then, going back to the mirrors one. I know if you break a mirror, it's supposed to be taking part of your soul. When you look at the Native Americans when they're first having their photographs taken, thinking they're nicking their soul. But when I was growing up, I would not, particularly at night time, I would not look in a mirror at all, because I thought I would see somebody stood behind me. Mm-hmm. So that was a fright when I was little, and it wasn't really rectified until I was on a ghost investigation down Somerset Way, I think, and I was sat in this room on my own. They'd all gone on a history tour, and I was facing this mirror thinking, oh, typical. I was trying to look around, and then I had a voice in my mind saying, do you mind if I show myself? And I said, well, why are you asking? He said, because you're facing the mirror. So I said, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. Go on then. And they just appeared, and they walked up to me, and it was so surreal. But I don't, that problem's gone. But I can understand how it would be appearing when you're a kid, like the scenes, some of the scenes in The Haunting of Blythe Manor, when you see this person stood behind you, it was very spooky for me. But now obviously it isn't a problem, but that, I think, some of the things might appear if you're sensitive as a child, and you're trying to make sense of it, and you're seeing somebody stood behind you when you're thinking, I don't need to go to the toilet now because I've just been. You know what I mean? So it's that sort of thing, really.
Yeah,
But,
I think superstitions, it's things that we often, I think they're hidden from. It's often things that we experience when we're younger, and it might be obviously passed down as a habit from your family. But sometimes, as you say, like about mirrors, it's something that was personal to you as much as anything else.
Yeah.
You got me. It's like being black cups. Obviously something happened when I was younger that I cannot stand drinking out of black cups, but. Something happened, and since then, I've got a habit that if somebody gives me a black cup, I'm like, oh my god, what do I do with this? And same with you with a mirror. But in your circumstance, spirit probably helps ease that now.
Very much.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think I always remember when you mentioned about the Native Americans that they believed that a camera could take their souls, and I always remember that Crocodile Dundee movie where they're sat in the bush, and out of the bushes comes an Aborigine, and he stood there and he's talking, and the photographer woman says, "Do you mind if I take a photograph?" And she said, "Oh," he says, "No." And she said, "What? Oh, wow, yeah. You think I'm going to take spirit?" He said, "No, you've left the lens cap on." Just little comedy humor, and I think we'll leave it at that. So superstitions taken with there's no, sometimes there's serious side to it or an interesting beginning to them, but we certainly are not superstitious. I'm not like that at all. But another good, interesting podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, everybody. Great to talk to you again, Ian.
Yeah, likewise, Martin. It's always nice chatting and doing these podcasts. And thank you for all the people who are supporting us and viewing and downloading and listening to. It is brilliant. It gives me a big thrill, in the fact that we're getting out there with this information, answering your questions, doing podcasts as such. So if you've got any topics you'd like to maybe ask if we could cover, please send in your topics, please.
Absolutely. And you need to get yourselves onto Facebook as well, because we do regular monthly live sessions as well, where we answer questions, we do a few activities, and we also give a few readings. So join our Facebook page. Details are on our podcast profile, or you can find it through our website. Thanks very much, Ian, and thank you everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.